Hello Hugh Grant fans, it's Oscar here from Taking Hugh for Granted. This episode is on 2 weeks' notice, starring Hugh Grant, obviously, Sandra Bullock, and none other than Donald J. Trump. As the film features the Donald, we thought when better to release the episode than on the day of the 2020 presidential election. But that means that we didn't know the outcome of the election when we recorded the episode, and, in fact, I don't even know it now. So if it feels a bit weird that we're not talking about the result or referencing Trump as president or not as president, hopefully, that will be why. Anyway, thanks very much for listening, everyone. DJ, play that intro.
Listen, I did film and television studies at university for 3 years. I spent hours reading countless books and articles on subjects spanning from film all the way to television. Not a single one mentioned Hugh Grant once.
I achieved the hardest qualification across any university or college ever, a 2-1 in history. Let me tell you, the only thing that I learned was that we, as a society, have a history of denying and neglecting Hugh Grant's artistic and cultural relevance, not just in this country, but in the entire world.
I met Oscar at a Hugh Grant-themed event I put on at the Students' Union.
It felt as though Diggory and I were the only ones there, and we agreed that there was a Hugh Grant-shaped hole in academia.
We decided to put it right ourselves. We want to show people that he's an icon in acting.
We want to show people he's more than just a bumbling posh guy.
I'm Diggory Waite.
And I'm Oscar Beardmore Gray. And this is...
Taking Hugh for Granted.
Hello, welcome to Taking Hugh for Granted. I'm Diggory Waite, I'm joined by Oscar Beardmore Gray, and this is the podcast in which two friends watch every single film starring Hugh Grant in an attempt to answer the simple question: is this film taking Hugh for granted? Is this film good on its own, or does it rely on the bumbling Brit for its acclaim? This week, we are reviewing 2 weeks' notice, and with me, as ever, is Oscar Beardmore Gray. Oscar, how are you doing today, mate?
I'm doing very well, Diggory, as always. How are you?
I'm in a foul mood. I don't know why. I'm tired. I got in late last night. You know, I was obviously out having a good time, sort of. And I'm just tired. I mean, something happened at work this morning that peeved me off. So just to let listeners know that when I viewed this film, I was not in a good mood. So that
doesn't bode well.
No, but I'm in a much better mood now because we're doing Taking You for Granted and I'm seeing your lovely face.
Fantastic.
So why don't we get right into a synopsis?
Let's get right into it.
2 weeks' notice, directed by Marc Lawrence and released in 2002. Harvard-educated lawyer Lucy Kelson, played by Sandra Bullock, uses her career for social activism. George Wade, played by Hugh Grant, is the suave public face of the Manhattan-based Wade Corporation, a development firm whose ventures Lucy routinely opposes. George, who has a reputation as a ladies' man, has appointed a series of beautiful female lawyers with questionable credentials as his legal counsel for years. Now, needing a real lawyer, he offers Lucy the job on a chance meeting. Despite warnings from her parents in working for the enemy, Lucy accepts the job as long as George promises not to demolish a community centre as part of a development. Will opposites attract?
Right then, Oscar, let's start as we often do, as we almost always do. Hugh's look and character in this film. Any thoughts and feelings?
Well, the first thought really is that this film, 2002, it came out. So we are right bang in the sort of Love Actually About a Boy era of Hugh. So we've got the very, this era is defined by suit Hugh, as I would say. He looks good in a suit. He's looking pretty trim. His hair is no longer in locks, but is more kind of like a styled sort of. It's not a mop, but it's just it's like he looks like a bit like a Lego man.
Yeah, it's an interesting haircut because, like you say, he kind of has it for About a Boy as well. It's styled, but it's like messy.
Yeah,
it's an interesting haircut.
Maybe, is it fit? I don't know.
I think it is. But he's at that point now where he's like maybe the cool fit dad at school. you know, and he like you say, where he wears nice clothes and stuff, but you know, you're still like, he's not the 1990. Think about it, it's not too far apart, but he's not the 1994 young-looking Hugh. Younger.
No, he's the exactly. He's the dad that the mums fancy in the playground, or
exactly. And his character in the film, we've seen this before as well. Much like in About a Boy, much like in Bridget Jones, he's a sleazy, again, boss who's known for getting with people and being a bit of a sleazeball and being a bit of a dick. And we've also seen it in Marc Lawrence's films in general, like The Rewrite and Music and Lyrics, where the lines that he does are sarcastic, deadpan one-liners that he throws away, and Hugh does very well, to be fair. So we've seen this sort of character before.
Well, I find you ungrateful.
Ungrateful?
Yes, ungrateful.
Ungrateful?
Yes, I hire you with no corporate experience. I give you a wonderful apartment, a great office, the non-fat muffin basket every morning.
George!
And if you don't want to be disturbed, why do you keep your phone on? Because you like emergencies. You crave the excitement.
All right, George. You are absolutely right. This has nothing to do with you. This is entirely all my thing, because I've managed to turn myself into this. There's not even a name for it.
Well, that's not like I'm enjoying it either, you know. Before you came into my life, I was capable of making all kinds of decisions. Now I can't. I'm addicted. I have to know what you think. What do you think?
George, I think you're the most selfish human being on the planet.
That's just silly. Have you met everyone on the planet?
It's a good point then to talk about the very beginning of the film, and if we're talking about Hugh's character, because before the film starts, you know, it kind of annoyed me because this film starts with a long credit sequence, which you sort of save for films like The fucking Godfather and you know, like proper films where you're going to sit down and be like, all right, this is a serious thing.
Yeah.
To be fair, I don't even think The Godfather has like one of those long credit sequences. You know,
No.
but it's like Hitchcock films of old and stuff.
Or, you know, if a James Bond film with a good theme tune where,
Yeah,
you know...
exactly. But even James Bond does you the fucking courtesy of showing you some absolute mad action and then being like, right, now we're going to have some, like, silhouetted woman walking around while James Bond floats through, like, blood. But, yeah, this doesn't even give you that. But to be fair to the credit scene, it was cute little photos of Hugh Grant as a child and Sandra Bullock as a child and how they grew up. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I thought it was charming.
I mean, it was charming. I mean, kind of what I expected of what Hugh Grant used to look like as a kid. He pretty much... It's basically like you take Hugh in Four Weddings and a Funeral and you put him in a 16-year-old's body and you basically got that. I think there's one where he's like dressed in like tails or something like that and he looks like a right twat.
Yeah, it's exactly as you imagine Hugh Grant would be as a kid as well. But it did, and also there was a few photo pictures that were doctored and they just superimposed Hugh's face in certain places. And because Sandra Bullock is basically the difference between the two is Sandra Bullock is like always outside. There's one where she's like a 4-year-old and she's holding up a plaque being like get rid of President Nixon or something. And so
which
she's
is
like,
quite cool.
Which is sick. And she's born to, so she's like more a hippie, born to that sort of like rebellious side. Whereas the next picture they show is Hugh at the same age at a baseball game with Nixon. As if they're somehow I don't know how they somehow know each other, but it just shows that, like, you know, he's been born to privilege and into the establishment, and she is the complete opposite.
Anyway, but you had some problems with the beginning of the film. Why don't you outline those to us?
Well, as I say, so that beginning sequence serves a very good purpose to show you Hugh Grant and Sandra Bullock are complete opposites, and that's great because you know what with these films, opposites are always going to attract. So Sandra Bullock. The film opens and she's like, as I say, she's this hippie, she's with her hippie mates, and they're trying to like stop this building being knocked down. And by, funnily enough, Hugh Grant's firm, yeah. And we then have this marauding 20 minutes which it really is, where obviously in classic shite rom-com style, Hugh Grant needs a new, like, I don't know, what role is it that he's looking for?
A chief counsel. I'm not well versed in.
Because what happens is he's meant to hire some like hotshot law person. What he ends up basically hiring, and what she ends up doing, is being his personal assistant and just going around and picking like suits for him and shit. Which is
terrible. Which is just like terrible. That, you know, basically this film is about a guy who thinks he can get away with hiring a good-looking woman to work as his personal assistant and call up at 3 a.m. every night and tell her what to do. And she'll just do it because she thinks that's the only way of getting what she wants, which is to save her building.
Yeah, she wants to save some building, classic hippie. But that doesn't ring right. But the thing is, the film is self-aware about that. Like when he's talking about who he's going to hire next, you know, he's like, oh, you could. His brother goes, you could hire a man. He's like, don't be silly. You know, I want to be able to sleep with him, pretty much. So he knows what he's doing. So he's hiring all these. He's looking to hire these women, sexy-looking women. One of them leaves, and he bumps into Sandra Bullock, and Sandra Bullock is like, hey. And he's like, oh, are you here for an interview? And she's like, no, but I do have a law degree from Harvard, funnily enough. But I'm here to lobby you to not knock this building down. Anyway, they end up in a taxi together, and within minutes of meeting, he's going, do you want the job?
250k.
Yeah, 250k. Exactly. But this is my issue, right? Is I'm willing to be like, do you know what? I'm here for a rom-com. It's Hugh Grant, it's Sandra Bullock, it's 2002. I'm willing. I know what kind of film I'm getting into. As we've said before, it's a popcorn film. It's candy floss.
Yeah, if you get too into the weeds and start criticizing it too much, you end up basically getting angry.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not worth your time.
Well, you're listening to Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted on the radio. Hugh Grant taking Hugh for granted. Oh, the podcast show.
So, maybe we should move on, Diggs, to analysing Sandra Bullock, who it really is she's a big star. I will admit, I hadn't watched too many of her movies before, but I know that she's a real star. I just watched, what was the film? Her and Ryan Gosling, The Proposal. Yeah, just watched The Proposal, which is her and Ryan Gosling getting on. Yeah, not bad actually. But she is a hot shot in Hollywood. Yeah. So it's interesting to see Hugh star with her. What did you think of her performance and maybe Hugh's chemistry with her?
I thought their chemistry, particularly in some of those, I've just slagged them off, but particularly in some of those earlier scenes, like when they're doing the divorce settlement, electric. Their lines seem to roll off one another really, really, really nicely.
George, I have an ulcer. I don't sleep well, mostly because you keep calling me in the middle of the night, and if you don't call me, I dream that you're gonna call me. I think about you in the shower, not in a good way, but in an I'm so distracted I can't remember if I washed my hair kind of way, so I'll wash my hair twice. So I have a hole in my stomach, I'm running out of shampoo, and today is the first time in my life that I did not give 1,000% on the job, and I hate that feeling.
I won't call after hours.
You will, George. You know you will.
Yeah.
I just don't think that we can see each other professionally anymore.
What's interesting for people, Hugh Grant fans, is also what happened around this film and with those two before they even started filming. As always with Hugh Grant, people had said they're going out. It's happening. They're getting together, and it was kind of an issue for both of them. But Hugh Grant said he couldn't think of a film that he'd done where the press hadn't said that he was getting with his leading co-star, and he said except for About a Boy, which is
That's understandable.
Yeah, exactly. But it didn't help that because they kept asking him about this, and Hugh Grant said in one interview, he was like, oh yeah, we've eloped and she's actually 2 weeks pregnant, which actually really took off in Australia. They got really, and to the point where Sandra Bullock got quite upset about it for a few weeks.
Why in Australia?
I don't know. I think the Australian press really just picked it up, and they were like, Sandra Bullock is fully pregnant with Hugh Grant's kid.
Man, that'd be so weird.
I'd be bananas, wouldn't it? But the thing is, with all that aside, they both, particularly Hugh, though, he said a number of times, on Alan Carr's Chatty Man, he said, Sandra Bullock I love, and I love to this day, when asked who's his favourite out of the leading ladies. And he said the same on Graham Norton.
Who's been your best? Who've you had the most spark with? Who've you gone in the room and gone, bow, wow,
Well, it depends in what sense you mean. I mean, there were ones I really got on with, like Sandra Bullock, I love to this day.
Yeah, we like her, don't we?
Sarah Jessica Parker, all that. But, you know, I can't think of a leading lady I haven't fancied. I think you got to fancy them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's no fun. What's the point of doing the film?
So you sort of use films as speed dating?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like Tinder for me.
No one really knows about this film.
No.
It seems like it's not even like when you Google it, not much comes up. It's like it's a forgotten film. I mean, as rom-coms go, like, you know, obviously everyone knows the famous Hugh Grant rom-coms, but I mean, I guess the reason why no one really knows about it is because it's kind of shit.
But it's interesting because when we were watching a Hugh Grant interview about when he was talking about The Rewrite, which was also written by Marc Lawrence, he said, oh, I like Marc Lawrence. I've done 3 films with him. Those films being 2 Weeks Notice, Music and Lyrics, and Did You Hear About the Morgans? And he said, and 2 of those were a hit. And obviously, Did You Hear About the Morgans? Who the fuck has heard of that? Did you hear about the Morgans? Did you hear about the Morgans? Like, who has heard of that shit? So that clearly tanked, and I've seen that. That was crap. So this film, I think,
looking forward to that one.
Yeah. So this film clearly did okay at the time, but maybe did it in America and not over here.
I mean, interestingly, another thing I read about this film is that it was filmed almost straight off 9/11. And originally it was going to be filmed in Toronto. A lot of films set in New York are filmed in Toronto because it's cheaper. But Sandra Bullock insisted on it being filmed in New York. And okay, this is funny. Apparently, in honor of the cast and crew's contribution to the city, in late December 2002... Sorry, 11th of December 2002 was named 2 Weeks Notice Day by the mayor of New York City.
What? What on earth?
Which is really strange. But so clearly it had some kind of effect on New York or the New York mayor. I think, you know, because it really served the purpose of starting up businesses, revitalizing the economy, etc. in the wake of 9/11. And you know, in the film we do see these like very dramatic kind of classic New York City pans. And I was actually thinking, I was looking out for the Twin Towers. Obviously, you know, they've been knocked down very recently. So I think maybe that was a bit of, you know, maybe a bit of symbolism there to kind of show that, you know, we're still a great city despite the fact that we just, you know, had this terrible disaster.
Bit of patriotism, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we might be getting onto something there.
Yeah. Oh, mate, let's talk about that scene. Let's talk about Donald Trump.
Look out the window. Look out the window. Look out the window. It's Hugh Grant in a Pret.
China.
Donald J. Trump. Is it J? Anyway, Donald Trump is in this film. So Hugh Grant plays a big hotshot guy in New York. Who's another big hotshot guy in New York at the time? Donald Trump, the man who was known at that time by us maybe as a guy who was, you know, for shit architecture and horrible Trump Towers. Now, obviously, is known for much more. But there is a scene. Donald Trump has a little moment in this. He's also in, I think he's in Home Alone 2, Donald Trump. Anyway, so he gets about a bit. But what happens in this scene between the two of them, Oscar?
Well, not much, to be honest, but it kind of just... It was a demonstration of kind of his misogynistic ways a little bit. He was kind of like, I hear Kelson finally dumped you. I mean, that was an absolutely awful impression. I'm sure he can do a better impression. But basically, he's on the lookout for another girl he can, you know, maybe...
Get on his team, whatever his team is. Yeah,
exactly.
Wade.
Trump?
I hear Kelson finally dumped you.
Not exactly, no. We just came to a mutual understanding that she couldn't bear me for another second, that's all.
So who's the new chief counsel? If she's any good, I'm going to steal her away.
I doubt it. She seems quite loyal to me.
Let me be the judge of that.
All right. Not intimidated? I'll even lead you to her. She's over there somewhere.
Yeah, he's like, quite frankly, I heard Kelson, she got rid of you. She dumped you. I'm going to get her. She's going to be mine.
Well, I knew you could be able to do a good Trump impression. That's class, mate. That's class.
But he reins it in for this, Trump, and I feel like he's, for someone who's been on TV and so much, he is slightly wooden, which is fair when you get celebrities coming on.
Well, I mean, when he's basically looks like he could be in Madame Tussauds, because he's literally looks virtually the same as he does now.
Yeah,
it's got the same. Given this film came out 18 years ago. He looks
ago.
Remarkably similar to what he does now.
Exactly. God, he's got that looming look. But yeah, he's only there. He's at the bar with Hugh Grant for just a few minutes. But yeah, it's a real interesting piece in Hugh Grant's career, because he was on the Stephen Colbert show, and Stephen Colbert sort of was like, I'm going to ask you not about the film that you've got coming out, but about your starring role with this particular performer. What was it like acting opposite Donald Trump? And Hugh Grant was like, well, I have to be honest, I don't like to slag off my co-stars that haven't slagged me off publicly, which really surprised me about Hugh Grant, because he's very political in the UK, very anti-Tory, or at least the Tory party at the moment, very anti-Trump. He must be, because if he doesn't have the Tory party in this country, then so I thought that would have been his chance to be like, because and at the time of the interview, Donald Trump was president, and I was surprised that Hugh didn't,
so
it was a chance to knife him.
Here's a conspiracy theory.
Uh-oh.
So.
Oh no!
I mean, well, no. I'm just saying that, like you said, it seems very strange that Hugh Grant is tweeting the whole time about how much he hates the current government in the UK. So maybe there's this is one conspiracy theory. He's got a legal team from the Trump administration gagging him from saying anything negative.
Yeah.
2, he's actually mates with him.
Imagine. Well, so he goes on with Stephen Colbert he continues to say, well, so as often happens with people like Trump, he got this text saying, you've been invited to be a member at Trump's golf club. And Stephen couldn't believe exactly. And then Stephen was like, did you go? And he was like, yeah, of course. It's a brilliant, and we know Hugh loves his golf. So he's at least golfed there. But yeah, maybe as well. It's just that sort of thing where he likes the golf club, club that much that he's like.
Honestly, mate, if you get, I'm sure, like a round of golf at Trump's golf course is, if you get a free round, you're probably signing up for that. Interestingly enough, some more little trivia, and perhaps why he had to be mates with Trump, is that the big house in this scene, in the film, where Hugh's brother George, who interestingly enough we've also seen in Four Weddings and a Funeral and Florence Foster Jenkins.
Yes.
So that was a nice little. I was like, that guy's in it again. What the hell?
Yeah.
Well, he's such a rogue person to be in multiple films of Hugh. Anyway, that house is one of Donald Trump's houses, and Trump lent it. It's called Westchester, and he lent it to the production team for the film.
Interesting. So clearly Donald was had a little bit going behind this.
Yeah, he was funding the whole thing.
Which makes me think maybe, like we spoke about, you said before about the New York connections. Maybe that's part of the reason why Trump was like, hello, New York, renovation, getting the economy going again. I want a piece of this
Make
action.
New York great again.
Yeah. Oh, God. Make Hugh Grant again. Yeah.
Make Hugh Grant young again.
Oh, mate, I fucking wish.
Well, I'm taking Hugh. I'm taking Hugh for granted. Well, I'm
Hugh in this film is such a shit, and Sandra is a beautiful, intelligent,
principled woman.
Yes, and she deserves her job. She works really hard.
Yeah.
And she's, got good values, trying to save the community centre.
And it just stinks of just shit, boring rom-com tropes we've seen before. I saw an interview where someone asked, they were like, Hugh, what made this rom-com different? And I sat, and Hugh gave some answer being like, well, it was actually funny. And I was like, rom-coms, romantic comedies aren't funny. But I was sort of like, you know what? Nothing about this film it feels very new. And then Hugh goes into this law, some low beat law place, and goes.
Well, Sandra quits her job, goes back to her original place, which is kind of this beat up law firm.
And he walks in there and goes, "Look, you used to write all my scripts, all my speeches. For I want to run this one by you." And she's like ignoring him, walking around, and then he's obviously like,
"Well,
good." Yeah. Well.
And then we have the kiss at the end,
which went on
what
for
everyone came for.
25 seconds, maybe 30 seconds of screen time. It was hot stuff.
What do you think Hugh's best kiss in a movie is?
That's a great question. This is a good one just in terms of length, and they really get stuck in there with sort of tongues and stuff. And there's several angles at which, because 25 seconds of screen time, there's a bit where the camera's dead on them, then it goes from the other side, then it twirls one way, then it twirls the other way. I feel like, have you got an answer for that?
I mean, I feel like In the Rain is always good. The Annie McDowell, Hugh Grant kiss in 4 Weddings.
I think that's it, isn't it?
It's got to be that one, surely.
Yeah, because that's the. I have to say, it was the first one I thought of, and there's obviously been plenty, but that was good.
And something else I just wanted to bring out quickly was Hugh has really small nipples.
Does he?
Maybe I've been studying him too much.
Look at this. Do I have small nipples?
Maybe they're probably about the same size. You should probably, if we meet him, we'll have to have a little comparison.
Because I'm not gonna lie,
and he has no chest hair either.
No, mate, come on. This is amazing. I wonder what his leg hair is saying, because I have very small nipples. I have no chest hair. I have very, very little leg hair, to the point where people have asked me before, do you shave your legs? And women before have said to me, I really want your legs. So maybe me and Hugh are similar in that sense, at least with the nipples. I didn't notice his nipples. Where did he get his kit off in this film? Oh, he did for the laundry, not laundry, for the stripped chest.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe Marc Lawrence has a little fetish going on, because I think in most of the films we see him topless. But yeah, he's got very peculiarly small nipples, so we'll have to ask him about that.
Yeah, definitely something top priority.
Taking Hugh for granted. Taking Hugh for granted. Taking Hugh for granted. What did you think, lads? Were they taking Hugh for granted?
Right, Oscar, it's come to that time. The question that I feel like, I say this every week, we already know the answer. But Oscar, is this film taking Hugh for granted?
Diggs, this film is taking Hugh for granted.
Yeah.
It's look, we all knew when we started this podcast that we were going to have a few rom-coms that are just awful, basically.
Yeah.
This, unfortunately, is one of them. It's not going to go down in history as a good film. I guess, again, the saving grace is Sandra Bullock. Thought Sandra Bullock was good, enjoyed her.
Yeah.
Hugh it was a serviceable performance, as you say. He played the role as he was meant to. Sarcastic, joke, sort of deadpan jokes, etc. But as a piece of cinema, not for me.
I agree. I think this film is taking Hugh for granted. He plays this role fine. This is the ones that we talk about. These are the ones where Hugh is playing the same fucking role as he always plays, and we know he does it well. But Sandra Bullock is good, but the film just suffers again from awkward moments, boring, predictable plot lines, and even though I am very happy to enjoy a film that I know what's going to happen in, it doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy myself enough along the way to make that worth it. So it's an unfortunate one, but that's what happens when you watch every single Hugh Grant film.
I mean, that's what happens when you watch every single film of every single person, like of an actor. That's just, it's inevitable.
It's inevitable. But we will be back in another 2 weeks with another Hugh Grant film, looking for that, hopefully finding a film where he hasn't been taken for granted. Let's hope so. Thank you so much again for listening. And Oscar, thank you as always for joining me. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Diggory. Always a pleasure. And we'll be back for more Hugh in a couple of weeks.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Taking Hugh for Granted is produced, edited and presented by Diggory and Oscar Beardmore Gray. The producers of Taking Hugh for Granted would like to state that this podcast is in no way associated with the actor Hugh John Mungo Grant, nor does it endorse his views or represent him in any way. Instead, by creating this podcast, Oscar and Diggory hope to celebrate Hugh's illustrious career, reliving his old classics and shedding light on some of his hidden gems. Hugh, if you're listening, we hope you approve.